What are the major stuttering techniques? How do they work? And which one is the best for you? Let's try to bring a little bit of clarity into that. I remember going to a museum one day, and I don't remember exactly what the museum was about, but I remember the guide, the girl, who was telling us about the museum. And she oftentimes began a sentence with and starting from that time, blah, blah, blah. And here you can see blank. And oftentimes it was okay, but sometimes it was weird. And at some point, I realized that she was using a stuttering technique to begin a sentence in a comfortable way. And there are many techniques of that kind, like replacing words, using devices, and so on. We're not talking about them today because they help you get through speech impediments, but they're not aiming at really changing your speaking in principle. And what we want to have at the end of the day is freedom from stuttering, a confidence, 100% confidence that you don't stutter. And if you're trying to get free from stuttering, you might be looking for some secret. And yes, each method or therapy usually has some core element, and there are so many secrets out there, it's easy to get lost. So I want to distill all those techniques into 5 categories. The first category, prolongation techniques. So these are the techniques, they target your speech impediments directly, the very structure of your speech. And this is the most common technique, actually. Most therapies and methods are using prolongation in some form or another. And there are different types of prolongation. One is more like robotic prolongation, when you make all the sounds monotonous. And some people say that it helps them. I like more prolongation when you make the first sound in a phrase or a sentence or a word, the first vowel sound really stronger and deeper, launching the whole piece that you're saying, the whole word or phrase. Now I want you to take a look at this video with Megan Washington. She's a singer and she stutters, where she talks about the prolongation technique she's using sometimes.
I've had a lot of therapy, and a common form of treatment is to use this technique that's called smooth speech, which is where you almost sing everything that you say. You kind of join everything together in this very sing-song kindergarten teacher way, and it makes you sound very serene, like you've had lots of Valium and everything is fine. That's not actually me, you know. And I do use that. I use it when I have to be on panel shows, or when I have to do radio interviews, when the economy of airtime is paramount.
So what caught my attention in that video are 2 things. First, that she uses that technique from time to time. And obviously this is not enough for building a new automated speaking pattern. And second, she says, that's not me. And that me is a really big question. It brings us to stuttering technique category number 2, which is the mindset. Actually, we don't stutter, or we're much more fluent in certain situations. And some people say, I don't stutter most of the time, I stutter only in these particular situations. So the question many people have, that maybe there is just some psychological shift that I need to make to be fluent. Let's take a look at this Tony Robbins video where he cures the guy pretty fast on a very psychological level.
My name is Rashad. Bill?
So now what? Do we stay two?
No, we don't stay two. We don't stay two.
You're a man. You're 30 years old. You've lived life. You've been through all kinds of stuff. There's a warrior in you, Rashad. Make the sound of the warrior. The first sound that comes to you, make the sound. Make the sound of the warrior. The warrior does not stutter. Ever. Own the warrior. Tell me what the warrior says now.
The warrior says, I am free.
The warrior says.
The warrior says, I am brilliant.
That's right. The warrior says.
The warrior says that I am electric.
The warrior says.
I am awesome.
Ask the warrior, do you need to stutter anymore?
No.
Now, while I don't believe that it can happen, I don't believe that it lasts long term. I don't believe in hypnosis and such other things as a sustainable long-term technique. But again, as you may notice, I say I don't believe. It's all about my belief. Again, while I'm not a great believer in that technique as the sole thing that can change everything, we must admit that it's a huge piece of stuttering, the psychological thing. It's not only the physical speech impediments, by far. A huge piece is our belief and our perception of ourselves as people who stutter. Category number 3, surrounding physical aspects. A number of techniques is all about the surrounding aspects of our speaking, like relaxation, breathing, using lower voice, eye contact, and some others. And the central is usually breathing thing, because speaking is breathing out words. It's actually air going out with words. So what can we do with our breathing? Actually, when we speak using lower voice, using our chest rather than larynx, we spend much less air. We use less air. So as a result, we have more air to say our phrase, and it's becoming easier. So as far as I know, and from what we can tell, the McGuire Programme is also using coastal breathing as one of the central techniques in their method.
Everyone had been instructed to tie a belt around their chests, ready to learn a new breathing technique. I was told that this was crucial and would improve any stammer, whatever the psychological reasons that lay behind it.
The breathing process has been a big part of the problem in the past, so we've stripped things right down to the basics, called coastal breathing. It's very powerful breathing from the thorax. And then slowly in time we start adding words. First of all, 1 word per breath, 2, 3, and we build it up and we rebuild the speaking process.
Category number 4, expression practice. First, I want you to take a look at Stormy's hands in this video.
Check it. I'm in love with the shape of you. I gotta tell you, I'm in love with your shape. You said the mother brothers couldn't really juggle your weight, and you were shy in the beginning, used to cover your face. Got that sweet, sweet love, and I'm a sucker for cake. I know, girl, you got a body they will kill for. Love you through whatever, who you trying to skip a meal for? Girl, you're too precious, why you trying to split the bill for? I ain't even guessing, they should have you up on billboards. That's real talking. You can go to work and let me pick up the stack. When you finish what you're doing, we'll be kicking it back. We can listen to my songs until you're sick of my raps. And I got money in the bank, but not a figure like that. Got me looking at your shape, man, I've already won. Tryna come and kill the game like my brother Teddy done. I ain't even tryna play it cool, cause this is bigger than my pride. Let me multiply your love and then I hit you by the bad. Ay.
Initially, I want to talk about speaking practice. And it's absolutely great to have speaking practice, to read out loud, to speak out loud. Some people say it's great to hold a pencil or pen in the mouth while speaking. It's all great. But it's not quite grabbing the point. It's not only about our speaking box or speaking mechanism. And Stormy, in that video, he's not just speaking, he's not just singing, he's living it out. His whole body's singing, is saying that, right? Not just the speaking box. And you might say that this is a performance thing. No, when you're really relaxed and you're really enjoying speaking, your body's speaking. And the speaking box, it just follows. And here we're coming back to that concept of me. And I catch myself many times, oftentimes, when I speak to somebody and I feel that I'm in a certain state when I'm like more stiff and tense and like feeling myself in a box, and my mouth is stiff again in a box, and I'm asking myself why. Because I have a perception of what is normal. If I articulate, if I enunciate, if I move my body, that is weird. That is something strange. People would be like, what is that? And that is all going in my mind. That is the perception of what is normal me should be. Now let's take a look what Emily Blunt is saying about that.
And then something rather wonderful happened that triggered a recovery. And I know it's different for everyone, and it's a very personal struggle for everyone. But what helped me was I had this really remarkable teacher who I have to mention tonight, called Mr. McHale. And Mr. McHale, when I was 12, when my stutter was at its worst, asked me if I would be in the class play, and I went, no, like absolutely not. And he said, well, I've got an idea, and would you hear me out? And I said, okay. And he said, I wonder if you'd try it in a different voice. Can you do any voices? And I kind of was like, you know, because I practiced in the mirror at home, obviously. And so I did, you know, at the age of 12, what I thought was a Northern English accent, which I won't bore you with now. But no, oh no, that's not happening. But it was weird. It was like, and I ceased to stutter for 15 minutes in a echoing school hall with kids fidgeting around wanting to be somewhere else. But I spoke fluently. I did, admittedly in a really dodgy accent, but I did speak fluently, and it got better after that. And so I know for so long I felt very enraged at being a stutterer, but it occurs to me now that I have something to be very grateful for, because, you know, my life is Mr. McHale's class play every day. And so I have to thank my stutter, the imposter in my body, for showing me the way.
And you wouldn't probably say that Ed Sheeran or Emily Blunt stopped being their selves, authentic selves, right? Once they dived into that performance, acting thing, once they got out of that box of normal me, or what we again perceive to be normal me, that is normal me. Okay, once we get out, we find another me, which is unknown, unexpected, undiscovered. But that is also us. It's just bigger than that perception of normal us as we always kind of try to think of ourselves. So there are many moving pieces, flexible pieces. There's a lot of room for transformation here. Category number 5, using hand. This is the technique that I used myself. I extract sounds with my hand. So I use my hand for that. It's going a bit slower than my usual pace, but again, I don't need to use my hand anymore. Once you build your new automated speaking pattern, once you have your confidence that you don't stutter, you don't need it. You can come back to a technique when you're so tired or you feel like you have speech impediments. But again, in the video, How to Stop Stuttering, I showed you that people who have disfluencies, who have glitches in their speech, something that we would be very concerned with. If you have that confidence that you don't stutter, they just don't matter. So on one hand, stuttering is an iceberg with several at least, important parts. So a good therapy should combine several techniques affecting these several parts or pieces. Our speech impediments on a very physical level, articulation, relaxation, breathing and voice, again, eye contact, all this psychological stuff. So it all should be involved. But on the other hand, we are very different. And since a huge part of stuttering goes with its roots into our personality, and again, we all are different, right? Our personalities are very different. So different things work for different people. So it's a great idea to try and test various techniques and see what's working best for you. I'm sure that I've missed something. So if you're using some other technique that you love, please leave a comment. If you're using some of the techniques that I mentioned and it's working or it didn't work, please give your feedback, leave a comment. Head over to Free From Stutter blog. I give their links to particular stuttering techniques. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, join Free From Stutter Facebook group, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. This is me. This is me. This is me. You see, we get to the unknown, to the unexpected, to undiscovered me. Now, that's the technique I used myself, and it's all about external synchronization of our speech. Our internal synchronization is impaired, so we use our hand to extract sounds, words, and phrases. I'll show you a couple phrases, okay?